Nothing But the Words, episode number 18, When to Take a Break from Writing Your Book.
Welcome to Nothing But the Words, the podcast that gives you everything you need to know to write a phenomenal book. Now here's your host, your author coach, Candace L. Davis.
Hey there, and welcome to Nothing But the Words. I'm your author coach, Candace L. Davis. Today I want to talk a little bit about when you should actually step back from the work and take a break from writing your book. A lot of times you'll hear that you should write every day, you should set a daily writing goal of 3 pages or 1,000 words or whatever your goal is, and write every single day no matter what. I am a big believer in writing consistently. I advise my coaching clients to have a writing routine. I coach them to create a routine that works for them, a schedule that works for them, even if it's not every day, so they can make consistent progress. Because writing a great book, regardless of what you may hear, is not something you can do in a weekend. It's not something you can do in a week. Yes, I've heard the stories of authors who've written books that some of us think are great, that they took a week to write. But I would go out on a limb and say, one, that didn't really happen, or two, what they wrote was a first draft of that book. And even that is asking a lot of yourself. It takes time to write a great book. And so consistency is key to that. But there are times when it might serve you better to just take a break from writing your book. So let's look at some of those occasions when it actually makes sense to stop writing for a while. If, for example, you're going back and forth between book ideas, you sit down on Monday, you're working on one book, Tuesday comes and you're working on a different book, you might need to take a break from writing. This would be a time to do further research, further introspection to figure out which book you actually want to write first, which book you actually want to write right now. Which idea is going to best demonstrate your gifts? Which idea is going to make the most sense for your goals and the goals you have for your readers? Stop hopping from idea to idea, step back, take a week or two or whatever time you need to figure out what it is you're doing so you can actually finish writing a book. It's incredibly difficult, especially if this is your first book, if you're a first-time author, to write multiple books at once. And it really doesn't serve you in the long run because at the end of that writing process, you've got to sell that book. You've got to market and promote that book. And it's hard to do multiple books at one time. So take a step back and figure out which book you should be writing first. And don't feel like you're giving up on the other idea. Some of my clients have multiple great book ideas. You don't have to give up on it. Just put it aside until you finish this one. If you're still working out your story, or if you're still trying to sort through your ideas and understand what it is you want to say to your reader, you might need to take a break from writing your book right now. Maybe you have a strong outline and you feel like you should know what to write next, but you get into the writing and you discover you can't quite articulate what you want to say, or you can't go deep enough with some of the content. You can't provide enough detail. You can't provide enough information, or you can't make the connections that you know your reader will need. In that case, just take a break from the writing. Give yourself a few weeks, a few days, whatever it is that you need to dive into some research and figure out what it is that you want to say. It may just be a process of sorting through your ideas. You may not need to do outside research. You may just need to do some contemplation of your ideas to figure out what it is that you really want to say. And that could look like having a conversation with your coach, having a conversation with another intelligent human being who's interested in the subject you're writing about, or journaling about your ideas. You will have more mental space to formulate your ideas and solidify your philosophies when you don't have the pressure of trying to do it in a way that you can communicate it to readers. Give yourself, in that case, some time to sort it all out, and then go back to the page. But also remember that writing is one of the best ways to get through that process. So journaling your ideas may just get you there faster. The difference, though, is that you're not trying to put it in a format that someone else can understand. You're just trying to get to the meaning for yourself. When you have another major project on your calendar, you might need to take a break from your writing. If you're in the middle of moving to a new house, you're starting a new job, or you're launching a product, writing might be the escape you need. Your writing time might provide a sort of mental sanctuary for you. In that case, please keep writing. But if it begins to feel like one more chore that you just can't possibly take on at the moment, respect that feeling. If you're in that category, put your book aside, but the important part is to schedule time in your calendar, to literally write it on your calendar, whether you use a digital calendar or a paper planner. Put your book back on your calendar a few weeks or a couple of months in the future when you know you'll have more time and mental energy. That way you maintain the commitment to writing it and writing it well. Now, when you're dealing with a major life event or a major challenge like a divorce or a new baby or a new grandchild or the loss of a loved one, give yourself some grace. Again, writing your book might be the break you need from the rest of your life, right? It might be your escape. But if it's not, if it feels like a burden because you're mentally and emotionally drained from that life event, take a step back. Give yourself some time to process what's going on and then come back to your book. One of my clients recently lost her grandmother, and she was about in the middle of writing her book when they found out that her grandmother had passed. She was very close to her, and she just needed a break. It wasn't a time where she wanted to devote the mental energy to working on the book, and she allowed herself that time, and she's been able to come back to working on her book without stress or pressure. Now, when you just finish writing a book, you likely need to take a break from writing. This is definitely not the case for all authors. Some people just want to roll right from one book into the next. If that's you, go forth right away. But writing a book is a big deal. If you've just finished that process, cut yourself some slack. You will need some of that time and energy to market and promote your book, first of all. There's no point in going through all of this hard work if no one's going to know about your book. So at the end of the writing process, you do need time and energy to put into promoting that book and making the absolute most of it. And you'll also likely want to just give your brain some time to play with ideas, to make new connections, to come up with new things. But if you feel pressure to start the next book right away, you don't have time to do that. You don't have time to sit back and allow yourself the space to come up with fresh ideas. So if you just finished writing a book and you want to take a break, feel free to do that. Don't feel like, oh, now the pressure's on. I've got to get to book number 2 or 3 or 4. Not the case at all. Even if you have a multi-book deal from a traditional publisher, they're not going to expect you to get the next book out right away. Your deal should be set up in a way that at least allows you time to market the first book before you move on to the next one. So if you are going back and forth between book ideas, if you are feeling that your story or your ideas are a bit muddled, if you are just finished writing a book, if you have a major project on your calendar, if you're dealing with a major life event or challenge, one of my clients had a tree fall on her deck. That's a major challenge. You might need to take some time away from writing, dedicate it to someone else, to something else, and then come back to the writing process. There is nothing wrong with that. However, if you do decide to take a break from writing your book, check in with yourself and make sure you really are doing it for the right reasons. So ask yourself a few questions. Ask yourself, are you just procrastinating? Listen, I know how to procrastinate with the best of them. Trust me, my husband will tell you. I know I can find other things to do when I should be working on a project. The human brain is designed to steer you to seek pleasure, avoid pain, and conserve energy. The authors of The Pleasure Trap call this the motivational triad. The book is largely about healthy living and eating, but in this case, seeking pleasure might mean taking a break instead of writing, right? You spend that time binging a Netflix show that you really enjoy instead, and that's more pleasurable than sitting down and doing something that feels like work. Avoiding pain might mean avoiding that ugly first draft that we all write. If you find it painful to sit down and crank out work that is not going to be great on the first go round, your brain may tell you, don't bother, just take a break instead. And of course, when you take a break, you conserve energy. Remember, your brain wants you to seek pleasure, avoid pain, and conserve energy. Well, when you don't have to do the work, you're definitely going to conserve energy. If you take a break from writing your book because doing something else feels better in the short term, or because it feels too hard, or because you don't want to do the work. Listen, that's normal. All of those feelings are normal. You're thinking like a typical human being, but you will also be cheating yourself. So don't allow yourself to just decide to take a break in the name of procrastination. Catch yourself if you're just trying to seek pleasure, avoid pain, or conserve energy, and make a different choice. Ask yourself also, are you using this break as a slow way to quit? If you want to give up on writing a book, or the book that you're currently writing because you'd rather be writing something else, it's better just to be honest about that. You will save yourself so much time and so much energy and so much guilt. Let go of the guilt and choose to do something else with your time. Either write the book you want to write, or if you really have no desire to write a book, hire a ghostwriter and do something else with your time. Or do nothing, but don't drag out the inevitable. Cut the cord if that's what you really want to do. Ask yourself, is this just a slow way to quit? And if it is, make a decision about whether or not you really want to quit on this idea. And there's no right or wrong there. If this is not something you want to do, pay someone else to do it or move on to something else. Are you taking a break out of fear? Are you taking a break because you're afraid your book won't be good enough? Are you taking a break because you're afraid it won't be perfect? Are you taking a break because you're afraid it won't stand up to your favorite authors? Are you taking a break because you're afraid you don't write well enough? If you are taking a break out of fear, figure out what you're afraid of and then do something about it. Polish your writing skills if you need to. Hire a coach who can help you work on your mindset, develop your writing routine, and create whatever else you need to create in your life so that you can get over your fear and get back to writing. In Short Books, Big Results, my group coaching program, I have weekly office hours so my clients can pop in, they can ask for whatever help they need, and they can get that kind of consistent support you might need to keep writing. If you need that support, get it. Or take a class or buy a writing book. But if it's just fear that's stopping you from writing your book, if it's fear that's causing you to want to take a break, that's probably not the best reason to take a break from writing your book. The bottom line is this, that there are definitely times when it makes sense to take a break from writing. If there is too much going on in your life, if you're going through emotional trauma or drama that is sucking your energy dry, if you have just finished writing a book, if you are not sure which book idea yet you should be working on, or if you just haven't figured out how to articulate exactly what you want to say, you may need to take a break from writing. If you find yourself in that position, just make a decision. Decide that you're putting your book aside for now, and then decide if and when you will pick it back up. Put that on your calendar so that it actually happens. Tell someone who will hold you accountable so that it actually happens. And then decide how you're going to use that break. Don't just let it get frittered away on activities that don't really matter to you. And frittering only means if it's not of value to you. If binge watching Netflix for 2 weeks is of value to you right now and that's the break you need, then take it. Far be it from me to judge, but make sure that you decide that the break that you have will be used the way you want to use it, and then you do that. As long as you like your reasons for taking a break, as long as you can respect your reasons for taking a break, and you use that break in the way that you intend to, in a way that works best for you, do it without beating yourself up about it. Take that break and know that your book will still be there. You'll get back to it. Now, I say all of this, but I also want to encourage you not to use this particular episode of the podcast as an excuse to put your book down. If you're making good progress and none of these reasons apply, and you've looked at your reasons for wanting to take a break and it basically boils down to you're tired or you don't feel like doing this, don't give yourself that easy out. If you really want to write your book, keep going, keep making progress. But if you really need to take a break, then take a break and then get back to it when the time comes and stay focused until you reach the end. I hope you found this episode helpful. If you found it beneficial, I would really appreciate an awesome review on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Reviews make a huge difference in helping new listeners find the show, and they definitely mean a lot to me. Thanks for listening to Nothing But the Words. I'm your author coach, Candace L. Davis, and I'll see you next time.